And clearly it's an honor for me to have the chance to introduce our speaker for this evening. I suspect that a good number of you have met Congressmen. I haven't met too many, but I'll assure you that the first time that I met our guest speaker, Congressman Lucas, it was at a cattle event. I had no idea he was a congressman. We were looking at cows, we were talking about cows, and cows were the topic. And it was a secondary awareness, quite frankly, that I was able to find out that he was a congressman. Interestingly enough, I've had several conversations with his wife about cattle. And the first thing that she did when I saw her this evening, she got out her phone and showed me some of her calves and a new bull that she bought. And I just hope he works well for you with calves this spring, Linda. Congressman Lucas is an 11-term congressman from Cheyenne, Oklahoma, western Oklahoma. This past year, he served as the chairman of the House Agriculture Committee. They had a huge job upon their hands to craft the 2014 Farm Bill. He was the leader of the group that did this. So please join me in welcoming Congressman Lucas to our podium.
Thank you, Bert, for that introduction, and I always enjoy someone who sets the microphone to the right height. Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I would first be remiss if I didn't note that, yes, I've been a member of the United States Congress since May of 1994. In some eyes, that makes me a part of the problem, one of the challenges. But I would say, looking at this group of experienced, knowledgeable livestock people, you would hopefully share my appreciation and understanding. A little experience sometimes is a good thing when we face the challenges back east. And I'd like to visit for a moment about the nature of the Congress that I'm a part of, to discuss some of the challenges in crafting the Farm Bill itself, and what we can expect over time, where ultimately this Farm Bill will take us, Farm Bill policy-wise, and of course conclude with a discussion about something I call the presidential silly season. Yes, we're 15 months away from the next presidential campaign. Let me begin by saying I represent the northwest half of the great state of Oklahoma. I represent the part of the state where there are very few trees and it never rains enough. One of the first things I did after becoming chairman of the committee and going out on the road to work with some of my agricultural committee members around the country was to try to explain to people the nature of my district. Now, my neighbors in this room are from Texas, perhaps some from Colorado or southern Kansas will understand what I'm saying from personal experiences, but the way I try to describe the district, I say, you know, I come from an area where you measure the soil in inches, I probably was 17 years old before I knew that you could have a prayer in church or school, which takes me by the way, or anywhere else, at a funeral, that didn't have at least one call for rain. I'm part of western Oklahoma. And I was standing on a farm with one of my committee members in Illinois. And I said, you know, folks, you measure your soil in feet, we measure ours in inches. I understand, well, maybe I said it this way, we pray for rain in Oklahoma, but I understand you actually pray for dry weather to plant and dry weather to harvest. That's very confusing from the perspective of a western Oklahoma. But that's the nature of my district. The Dust Bowl in the 1930s. My home county had 14,000 people in 1930. By the end of the Depression, well, we're now back up to 3,400. So my experiences as a farmer, as a rancher, come from a tough environment, a situation where when the federal government gets it wrong, it causes the most amazing pain. And that's always been part of my challenge as a member of Congress, is to make sure, while we can't make it rain, you have to talk to the Senate if you want it to rain. Nonetheless, make sure that we don't have policies or such that we cause harm and pain. Let's talk a little bit about the Temple of Honesty, down the road about an hour and a half, as I kiddingly call it. Yes, that's a weak attempt at humor, but I'm trying. Congress, for the last basically 5 years, has been set up in such a way that we have a very conservative House. And by the way, I will equal opportunity bash members of my party and the other party at the same time. So get ready for that too. We have a body where in the United States House, very conservative bunch. You would not believe how conservative the United States House is these days. And that's by a Western Oklahoma definition. On the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, by a Western Oklahoma definition, we've got a president who probably is the most liberal since, I don't know when. And in the middle, you've got the United States Senate. Now, I've been a House member all my life, and before I went to Congress, I was a member of the State House of Representatives. So I have a slightly jaded opinion of the other body. By the way, if running the United States Senator, I did not refer to it as a nursing home. I did not do that. No matter what you say, I did not refer to it as a nursing home. The United States Senate is one of those places, unlike the other parts of the government, the president makes his decision. He moves forward. In the United States House, when 218 of the 435 agree, we move forward. It might take an hour, a day, a week, a month, but we move forward. The United States Senate is the most amazing creature in the Constitution. They have this concept of unlimited debate. And since 100 of them are running for president every day, that unlimited debate means that every so often they have to come up with a way to shut them off, to end the debate to move forward. And that takes 60 of the 100 senators to agree. 60, a supermajority. So what that means is, in the United States Senate, if something happens, you've got to have 60 senators to agree to vote, to shut off the debate, so they can procedurally vote by 51, then to advance to the vote, and vote by 51. 3 votes, one of which is a supermajority. That's a recipe to get nothing done. It's frustrating in the House, it's frustrating across the country. But clearly, the founders of this great country wanted to create a system by which it was almost impossible to get anything done, but just possible. That's why they created the Senate. So that's the environment that I work in. The other challenge, on top of this divided government, liberal president, conservative House, and nobody running the Senate. The other part of the challenge is a huge turnover in membership. In the Republican side of the House, we're the majority, biggest majority since 1928. Over 60% of the membership has 5 years experience or less. 5 years or less in Congress. Now, I support fresh faces just like all of you. In other congressional districts, of course. But it makes it difficult when you're dealing with complicated policy issues. Like the Farm Bill. It makes it difficult. Oh, and the other element, on top of the divided government, on top of the substantial number of new members who really don't have a lot of experience, the other element that drives us crazy is the deficit. We don't have any money to spend. We don't have any coal money to spend. Which is why in the House the focus is on how do you spend less money. You have no money to spend. So you factor all that together, and that's the challenging legislative environment I work in. The Farm Bill. Since 1933, a comprehensive document to make sure that we have the ability to raise enough food and fiber to meet our needs, and since the 1930s, what was the commodity program, or food stamps since the 1960s, making sure those of our fellow citizens who, for whatever reason, can't meet their basic needs, are able to get their basic needs. It's that combination of the bill out there. Remember, half the body wasn't around for the previous Farm Bill. So we start off on this great trek 2.5 years, actually 3 years ago. I have become the chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, worked my way up through the process since 1994, was picked by the steering committee on my side of the chamber to lead the committee. My problem was, after hearings and public interaction and subcommittee markups and full committee markups, working my way in a bipartisan fashion through the process, my problem was in 2012, the first year that we should have taken the Farm Bill to the floor, my leadership said, no, you don't have the votes, we don't want to waste time on you, We're not going to do this stuff in an even numbered year. We'll give you a 1-year extension of the old farm bill. But we're not going to bring a new farm bill to the floor. In Congress, everything runs in 2-year cycles. So that meant in January of 13, I'm still chairman of the committee. I'm still a member of the majority. We start all over again, and we write another farm bill. And like the previous farm bill, we meet certain targets. We're obligated to do away on the crop side with the old direct payments. Gone, both from the 12 bill to 13. We're obligated to save money. So we come up with a way to reduce 5-year spending compared to the previous bill of $23 billion less. And we make rather dramatic reforms in the food stamp program, setting up a 10-state pilot project that states voluntarily for a period of 5 years come up with ways to require able-bodied adults without dependents to work for their health. So I go to the floor of the United States House. My biggest challenge, in all fairness, is I've got an environment where my friends on the left, I don't need to put party labels on anybody, my friends on the left don't want to spend any money on rural America. You are gun-toting, private property, fanatical, conservatives. They don't want to spend any money on it. But my friends on the right don't want to spend any money on anybody for any reason on any occasion. It's kind of hard on ag research and a few other very important things. So I was caught in the squeeze between the two sides. We did our bipartisan bill in committee. We came to an agreement. We crafted the options. We actually strengthened and made permanent the livestock disaster and drought provisions, and we moved forward to the floor. My majority leader at the time comes to me and says, well, you know, Frank, because you've done such a fine job of writing farm bill, and I'm sure he had his fingers crossed, we're going to let you come to the floor with something which I'll mention to you called an open rule. Now, when you've got 435 very knowledgeable people who are mildly opinionated on anything and everything, to get our legislative work done, typically a bill comes to the floor from the Rules Committee with a set number of amendments. 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 25, whatever. Amendments that are spelled out and with the time limits on debate so that you can ultimately get your work done. But I got to come to the floor with an open rule. And the only thing I could extract from leadership was the commitment that at least they would require bills to be filed 24 hours before they were considered. At least let those of us on the committee see the garages that were being fired at us, since we're not far from Gettysburg, battlefield at this moment. So we go to the floor, 140 some amendments. I work very diligently with members, and I put 50 of these things that are not really obnoxious together in a package and pass them on block. I persuade another 50 members that maybe you really don't want to bring that idea to the floor, because here's the reason why. We get through that. So we hammer our way through the other 50 amendments. The amendments are structured so that the nutrition amendments, the food stamp stuff, comes up at the very end of the bill. Now, we worked out crop insurance. We've done away with the annual payments, fixed annual payments. We've included all manner of reforms, but we get down to the tail end of the Farm Bill in 2013. And my friends, my idealistic friends, line up and offer the most amazing set of amendments dealing with food stamps. All things that would be extremely popular in the coffee shops of the 3rd District of Oklahoma. But yet things that the President would never sign the bill, the Senate would never touch the bill, coming at me. And we fight through all of these, and we accept some by voice, and we punch out on some, and we get down to a couple at the very end that are poison bills. These are coming from my friends on my side of the room. And the last poison pill just blows the Democrat wide open on the other side. And my ranking member, that's the senior Democrat on the Ag Committee, if you're the majority, you're the chairman. If you're the minority, you're the ranking member. I have a very good working relationship with my ranking member at the time. He comes across to me and says, the 45 votes I had last night on that last amendment are gone, Frank. You're going to have to pass this farm bill all on your own. Now, my majority leader hears this, And my majority leader is probably looking for a reason to pull the bill. The majority leader says to me, well, you want to pull the bill? At this point, this has been about a total of a 3.5-year experience that we've ground through. Twice through the committee. The Senate's gone through twice. We've done everything. And I say to my majority leader to run the bill. Because I knew that if I withdrew the bill off the floor, it would be said that Lucas lost his nerve, Lucas couldn't do it, Lucas chilled out, he didn't do a good job, and you never ever have a bill on the floor again. It would address crop insurance, conservation, rural development, ag research, farm credit, all the things that matter. So I went to the floor, tried to explain every bit of agricultural economics from 1933 to the present in 5 minutes. Now, any of you ever sat through policy class will understand 5 weeks will barely discuss the 1933 law, let alone the entirety since 1933. Went to the floor, got a standing ovation from my colleagues, roared with approval. I could see the majority leader, he might pass this damn bill, was the expression on his face. And my colleagues voted me down. My friends on the left and the right ganged up. My left friends couldn't vote for the food stamp amendments. My friends on the right wouldn't vote for it because they wouldn't vote for it. 2 things happened that day on the floor. One was, and remember, you've got about, on any given day now, between 12 and 14 million people watching on C-SPAN. I walk over to one of my colleagues and I say in a very affectionate fashion, yes, you might have thought that I'd applied to be a Marine Corps drill sergeant at that moment. You got every amendment you wanted. Why didn't you vote for the bill? He looked me in the eye, chuckled a little bit and said, well, Frank, I know I got every amendment in there, but you see, I really wasn't planning on voting for the bill anyway. I was just trying to run up my score by offering these amendments with all the outside groups, and now I'll run it even more up by voting it down. Now, 14 million people watching C-SPAN. What is one of the lessons you learn early in life? Sometimes at about this point, you put your hand in your pocket. You just put your hand in your pocket, and you say, thank you. And you wait for Kevin in the crosswalk someday. The other thing from that day, and I lost the bill on the floor, which losing in front of the world is a very traumatic thing. You're an Ag Econ graduate, you're chairman of the Ag Committee, you spent at that point 20 years on the committee, so a little bit of a challenging thing. But the next day, there appeared a photo spread of me in the Washington Post newspaper. Now, I know you're surprised that this face has not been in photo spreads on a regular basis, but it's not. The Post reporters sitting in the gallery were fascinated in a body of rancor, of whatever, where no major piece of legislation had passed for 3.5 years. The Post reporter was fascinated and ran with the C-SPAN. He got 3 pictures. One was of me in the final moments of the debate, my arms up. You would have thought I was a tent preacher in western Oklahoma, delivering the final point, wound up as tight as an 8-day clock, as my late father would say. The second picture was my expression, and the photographer got a shot of the electronic vote tally board, the scoreboard, where I was going thump. And the expression on my face was a little bit as you would expect. And then the third picture, the one that fascinated him, was of me standing at the front of the well, in front of the speaker's station after the vote tally. A line of Democrats all the way outside on one side, a line of Republicans on the other side, offering me their condolences over the failure of the bill. He compared that to a country funeral where a respected member had been lost of the family and all the neighbors lining up. He found it to be fascinating that they spontaneously line up. Well, that, I will tell you, was a statement about, yes, the nature of the bill, but the amount of effort that my colleagues and I in the Ag Committee put into the bill. We lose it on the floor, we go back to committee, we split it in half. We run a food stamp bill. We run a farm bill, as you and I would refer to it in this room. We pass each, not by the most glorious of margins. We go to conference in the United States Senate, let's pass something, we put it back together, run the comprehensive bill on the floor, and pass the final product. Now, the hard way to do things? Yes. But by achieving consensus and working together and using the results of all those hearings and the input from all of the commodity groups and all the regions, we wound up with a product. We even got the president to sign. Most amazing thing. So I'm proud of the 2014 Farm Bill. If you look at ag policy back to when both my grandfathers were walking behind horses and farming and milking cows that were dual purpose, beef and dairy, there was no farm bill, comprehensive farm bill prior to 33. And from 33 to 1996, you had essentially supply management programs. From 96 to the 2014 Farm Bill, you had the direct payments, the transition out of management, by the way, politically unsustainable. And now you have an insurance-based concept that applies to both crop and livestock. And something where we'll all make decisions for the next 5 years, something where we'll pay premiums to access the protection from weather, or at the crop side of the equation, price. We'll control our own fate. We can defend this. Because there will be years when a lot of my friends will make those net payments to protect their grass in case of drought. My crop friends will buy both price and weather protection and won't need any of it. And they'll be wrong. This treasury will make a little profit. Then, as I tried to explain to my folks back east, this concept that farmers and ranchers are waiting for the next drought disaster, we're waiting for the next crop failure to go down to the local office. Not true. If you take out life insurance because you don't want to wake up tomorrow morning, you're silly. If you take out fire insurance because, well, this might apply to some people, you want your house to burn down tomorrow, you're silly. No farmer, no rancher wants to use these tools on a regular basis. We want the price, and we want weather. And finally, after 2.5 years of working with members one-on-one, see, Congress is a body that's a lot like your and my everyday business in agriculture in our own communities. It's a level of trust, it's a level of confidence, it's honesty and sincerity. You lie to the neighbor, you lie on the calculator, you don't ever have that option of doing business again. Okay? Same thing can be said about the relationships within Congress. The Farm Bill passed because I and my colleagues on the Ag Committee developed a level of trust among these members who hadn't been there long enough to have ever heard of a farm bill before, who certainly didn't understand where their dinner came from 3 times a day, so that they would trust us. I tell people, the Farm Bill passed in spite of the Republican and Democrat leadership. It passed in spite of certain forces in the Senate. The President signed it probably not because he really wanted to sign it, but because he had to sign a piece of legislation that was good for everybody, consumers and producers. One last set of thoughts, the presidential silly season. I'm sorry that we're in all this together for the next 15 months, but we are. You have 25 Republicans approximately and 5 Democrats running. That's 30 people. That's about 25 too many. And understand, I've come at this from the perspective of the 3rd District of Oklahoma. But who would have ever guessed we'd get to the point where, let's say disrespectfully, but who would have ever guessed that the most exciting Democrat candidate for president out there is not even a registered Democrat? Bernie Sanders from Vermont, Socialist Party member. I served him in the House. He's real. He's a real socialist. And he's creating the most excitement on that side. And on the other side, a property developer from New York City, who may or may not have been bankrupt a few times. What have we come to in this country? Now that said, my father always used to say, which reflects the dairy heritage of my part of western Oklahoma, you put the milk in the jar, you screw the lid on tight, and you shake that jar, and you shake that jar, and you shake that jar, and the cream comes to the top. We have a lot of political jar shaking to do in the next 15 months. Oh, we do. But I have faith in you that we'll sort this out. One last thought, because Linda's about to yawn, and when Linda yawns, the speech is over with. One last thought about this process. The most important thing that At the end of a presidential term, of course, is the election and the swearing in of the next president. And I've had the privilege now 3 times, twice in the zone behind and once in the zone behind and twice down on the deck, to be on the platform when the president is sworn in. The first thing that is the most important thing, of course, is when, after the president-elect marches in and sits down, in comes the outgoing president, sits down, and across from each other at the front of the podium. The most important thing, of course, is the new president-elect stands up and takes the oath to defend the Constitution, to fulfill his or her responsibilities for the next 4 years. That's the single most important thing. The second most important thing, I say this respectfully, but the second most important thing is there's a United States military colonel's rank, depending on which service is responsible that day, that has the briefcase that's attached to their wrist. It is the launch code box. It has existed since the 1950s. It is how you start thermonuclear war. And in the process of the new president taking the oath, that box moves from the chair behind the outgoing president to the newly sworn in president. In that moment, command of the military, future of the world, shifts. The third most important thing, as the president leaves the platform, the new president, it's my understanding there's a document inside the Capitol building that he or she will stop and sign, which fires about 5,000 political appointees from his or her predecessor. That's the day we're living for. That's the day we're living for. If I've not slandered all parties and all candidates equally, I apologize. I'll work harder next time. But my friends, thank you for the invitation to be here. Linda and I have had a wonderful couple days. We came up from D.C. Linda came into town. Linda does not come to town very often. Came into town and we drove up and did the Antietam battlefield. Amazing demonstration of young men doing what they thought was right at the time on both sides. And then today we've been up and down and around and about over the battlefield at Gettysburg, which is, if anything, even more awesome than Antietam. Thank you for the opportunity to do that and come visit with you this evening. And when the cream comes to the top of the jar, we all better jump in a hurry. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom. Tom's coming up. I would offer you one thought, and I say this respectfully. Sometimes people have a little bit of a challenge translating my Southwest dialect. I understand you have people here from the Republic of Texas, Tom. Now, if you want to find a Texan in the crowd, mention the Republic because they smile from ear to ear. And they can't translate.
Congressman Lucas, we thank you for that very, very enlightening presentation, and you honor us with your presence here, and we're very pleased to have you. In token of our appreciation to you, the American Simmental Association would like to give this to you, I think under the rules of book. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So here's a book, Gettysburg, Experiencing the Battlefield Through the History, Places, and the People. I think you'll find it interesting in here, the stories about the 38 farm families trying to get compensated by the government for the damage and destruction of their farms. They could have used you back then, sir. We're done. The bar